The stars burned outside the window of Unity Ring Station, but Admiral Daeho Kang barely noticed them anymore. He had seen this view 1,000 times during peace talks that never worked. Today was no different. Inside the conference room, representatives from the Dominion Coalition and the Free Systems Alliance sat across from each other, throwing accusations like weapons. Daeho stood at the back of the room, his uniform crisp and his face neutral. At 58 years old, he had commanded Earth's defense fleet for 15 years. In all that time, his ships had never fired a shot in anger. Earth stayed neutral. That was the rule. That was how humanity survived while the galaxy tore itself apart. Ambassador Mirai Han sat at the table between the two sides. She was younger than Daeho, only 45, but she looked tired. Mirai had been organizing these peace talks for 3 years. Every time, both sides came close to agreement. Every time something broke the deal. Today it was mining rights in the outer reaches. Yesterday it was prisoner exchanges. Tomorrow it would be something else. The war had been going on for 187 years. Billions had died. Whole planets were burned to ash. Children grew up knowing nothing but war. And still, neither side would bend. Earth refused to choose a side. Some called humanity cowards. Others called them wise. Daeho did not care what they called him. His job was to protect human colonies, and he did that job well. For 2 centuries, not a single human world had been touched by the war. While Mirai tried to calm the angry delegates, Daeho's communicator buzzed. He glanced at the message. It was from Lieutenant Commander Sora Yoon, his intelligence officer. The message was marked urgent. Daeho stepped out of the conference room and called Sora back. Her face appeared on his screen. She looked worried. "Admiral, we have a problem," Sora said. "There are unknown ships near New Jeju. They are using free systems transponders, but their formations are wrong." New Jeju, the colony world where Sora's sister lived. 4 million people called it home. It was a peaceful place, far from the war. "How many ships?" Daeho asked. 32. "They just dropped out of faster-than-light travel." "Admiral, something feels wrong about this." Daeho trusted Sora's instincts. She had been tracking fleet movements for 10 years. If she said something was wrong, he believed her. "Send a warning to New Jeju, tell them to activate their defense shields, and get me Captain Jiwon Park." Captain Park commanded the EDS Indomitable, Earth's newest destroyer. She was only 37, but sharp as a blade. Her ship was 3 days away from New Jeju, but it was the closest human warship. Daeho returned to the conference room. Mirai was still trying to make peace between people who did not want peace. He caught her eye and gave a small shake of his head. She understood. Something was happening. 10 minutes later, Sora called again. This time her face was pale. "Admiral, they are firing. New Jeju is under attack." Daeho felt his blood turn cold. For 200 years, no one had attacked a human colony. The neutrality had held. Until now. "Get me every camera, every sensor, everything we have in that system," Daeho ordered. "I want to see what is happening." The data came through in seconds. Daeho watched on his screen as fusion bombs fell on New Jeju. Cities disappeared in white light. The defense shields held for a few minutes, then collapsed. More bombs fell. The planet's beautiful blue oceans turned gray with ash. The unknown fleet was not just attacking. They were destroying everything. This was not a military strike. This was massacre. Then came the reports from Songdo Station. Boarders had taken the trading hub. They were killing everyone inside. Men, women, children. It did not matter. They killed them all. Hansung Prime was next. The agricultural world's atmosphere was being poisoned. The crops that fed 20 systems were dying. So were the farmers. In 6 hours, 3 human colonies were destroyed. 4.7 million people were dead or dying. The attacking ships broadcast a message on free systems channels. They claimed this was punishment. They said Earth had been secretly supplying weapons to the Dominion. They said humanity had chosen a side and now faced the consequences. It was a lie. Earth had supplied no one. Daeho knew this with absolute certainty. Sora's voice came through his communicator. She was crying. Her sister had been on New Jeju. There was no way anyone survived what Daeho had just watched. The conference room had gone silent. Everyone had heard the news. The Dominion representatives looked shocked. The Free Systems delegates were already denying involvement, claiming these were not their ships. Mirai stood slowly. Her face was no longer tired. It was hard as stone. The peace talks are over, she announced. Earth has a decision to make. Deho left the station immediately. His shuttle raced back to the EDS Sol, his flagship. All around Earth, the defense fleet was stirring. Captains were calling their crews back from leave. Engineers were checking weapons that had not been fired in decades. Marines were loading ammunition they hoped they would never use. In his command center, Deho pulled up the casualty reports. The numbers kept growing. 4.7 million, 4.8 million. The count would not stop for days. Dr. Hyunwoo Nam, Earth's chief weapons scientist, appeared on his screen. The man looked sick. His research facility had been on Hanseong Prime. 300 of his colleagues were dead. Admiral, Dr. Nam said quietly, I need to know. Are we going to respond? Deho thought about the 200 years of peace. He thought about the billions of people in the galaxy who had died while Earth watched. He thought about the 4 million humans who had just been murdered for no reason. Yes, Deho said. We are going to respond. Get your weapons ready, Doctor. All of them. 24 hours later, Mirai stood before the Galactic Council. Every major power in the galaxy was watching. She did not beg for help. She did not ask for sympathy. She simply made a statement. Earth demands the immediate surrender of all forces involved in the massacre of our colonies. You have 72 hours. After that, we will take them ourselves. The Free Systems Alliance sent urgent messages claiming innocence. The Dominion offered to help Earth punish the attackers. Both sides suddenly realized they had made a terrible mistake. They had ignored humanity for so long that they forgot what humans were capable of when pushed too far. Captain Jiwon Park's destroyer was already moving toward the attack site. Colonel Taeyang Choi's Marines were boarding assault ships. Sora was hunting through intelligence data, looking for whoever ordered this atrocity. And in his command center, Admiral Deho Kang looked at his fleet. For 200 years, these ships had been a symbol of peace. Now they would become something else. Now they would become Earth's vengeance. The 72 hours passed. No one surrendered. The galaxy held its breath. Earth went to war. Earth changed in a single day. Cities that had known only peace suddenly filled with soldiers. Factories that made civilian goods started producing weapons. Ships that carried cargo were refitted with armor and guns. Humanity was waking up and the galaxy was about to learn what that meant. Admiral Deho Kang stood in the command center of the EDS Sol and watched his fleet grow. Every day more ships arrived. Destroyers, cruisers, carriers. Some were old vessels pulled from storage. Others were brand new, rushed out of shipyards before their paint had dried. In 2 weeks, Earth's defense fleet doubled in size. But size was not what made them dangerous. It was what Dr. Hyunwoo Nam had been building in secret for decades. Dr. Nam arrived at the Sol with his team of scientists. They looked exhausted. Many had lost friends on Hanseong Prime. Now they were turning their peaceful research into weapons of war, and it hurt them to do it. Show me what you have, Deho said. Dr. Nam pulled up displays showing weapon systems, kinetic missiles that could hit targets from incredible distances, targeting computers that used artificial intelligence, something both sides of the Galactic War had banned because it was too effective. Stealth systems that made ships invisible to sensors, gravity weapons that could trap entire fleets in one spot. We built all this for defense, Dr. Nam said quietly. We never wanted to use it for attack. The people who killed our colonies did not give us a choice, Deho replied. Can these weapons be ready in 1 week? They are ready now, Admiral. While the fleet prepared, Lieutenant Commander Sora Yoon worked day and night in intelligence. She barely slept. She barely ate. Her sister was dead, and Sora would not rest until she found out who gave the order to kill her. The evidence was confusing at first. The attacking ships had free systems transponders, but their weapons came from the Dominion. The tactics they used matched neither side. It was like someone had mixed pieces from both armies into something new. Then Sora found a pattern. All the attacking ships had been reported as lost or destroyed in battles over the past 5 years. They were ghost ships, vessels that should not exist. Someone had been collecting them, hiding them, preparing them for something. Sora dug deeper. She tracked supply shipments, crew transfers, communication logs. Slowly a name appeared. Fleet Admiral Ganzorig. He commanded a Dominion fleet in the outer sectors, far from the main war. His record showed a brilliant tactical mind, but also something else. He had written papers about neutral powers, calling them cowards who let evil prosper. Ganzorig believed that neutrals needed to be punished. He thought that by attacking Earth, he could force humanity to join the war. Then, when Earth's small fleet was destroyed, other neutral powers would learn their lesson: choose a side or be crushed. He had made one fatal mistake. He assumed Earth's fleet was weak. Sora took her findings to Admiral Kang. He studied the data carefully, then called Ambassador Mirai. "We know who did it," Deho told her. "A rogue admiral named Ganzorig. He is using stolen ships and recruited extremists. Neither the Dominion nor the Free Systems ordered this attack." Mirai was at the Galactic Council when she received the news. Both sides had been claiming innocence. Now Earth had proof they were telling the truth. This was not an act of war between powers. This was terrorism by a madman. "Does this change anything?" Mirai asked. "No," Deho said. "Our people are still dead. Ganzorig still needs to answer for what he did. We are still going after him." Both warring sides offered to help Earth hunt Ganzorig. The Dominion wanted to capture him to prove they did not order the attack. The Free Systems wanted him dead to clear their name. Mirai rejected both offers. "Earth will handle this alone," she announced to the Council. "This is not about your war. This is about justice for mass murder." 3 weeks after the massacre, Captain Jiwan Park's destroyer Indomitable found the first target. A squadron of Ganzorig's ships was trying to escape human space. There were 12 vessels, all heavy cruisers with powerful weapons. Jiwan was 37 years old. She'd trained for combat her entire career but never experienced it. Now her moment had come, and she felt her heart pounding as her crew prepared for battle. "All ships, battle stations," Jiwan ordered. "Activate stealth systems. Prepare kinetic weapons." The Indomitable vanished from enemy sensors. So did the 5 ships with her. They drifted like ghosts toward the enemy squadron. The enemy commander tried to contact them, probably to threaten or negotiate. Jiwan did not answer. Instead, she gave the order to fire. Kinetic missiles launched at near light speed. They were just pieces of metal. But when something hits you that fast, it does not need explosives. The first enemy ship was cut in half before its crew knew they were under attack. The second ship exploded when a missile went through its reactor. The third managed to raise shields, but the kinetic weapons punched through them like paper. In 7 minutes, it was over. 12 enemy ships were destroyed or disabled. Earth's vessels had taken no damage. Not a single human casualty. Jiwan stared at the wreckage on her screen. She had just killed thousands of people. It should have felt wrong. Instead, she felt nothing. Maybe the feeling would come later. Maybe it would never come. These people had helped murder her people. They got what they deserved. The battle was recorded by long-range sensors from both sides of the Galactic War. Within hours, everyone knew what happened. The peaceful humans had weapons that made the galaxy's best militaries look like children playing with toys. Admiral Kang received reports of enemy forces retreating from human space. Ships that had been close to Earth colonies were suddenly moving away as fast as their engines could push them. No one wanted to be the next target. Sora tracked Ganzorig's movements. He was running now, heading deeper into contested space. He had bases in the Corbat Nebula, hidden among asteroid fields and sensor-blocking gas clouds. That was where he kept his main fleet and his headquarters. Getting there would mean crossing through active war zones. Both sides might try to stop Earth's fleet. It was dangerous. It was risky. Deho did not care. "Prepare the fleet for deep space operations," he ordered. "We leave in 3 days." Colonel Taeyang Choi gathered his Marines. They were training for the assault on Ganzorig's base. Taeyang was 41 and had fought pirates before, but never a full military force. He drilled his troops until they could operate in their sleep. When they boarded those asteroids, they needed to be perfect. The night before departure, Deho stood alone in his quarters. He looked at the casualty reports from New Jeju one more time. 4.7 million names. He had memorized the number. He would never forget it. Dr. Nam sent him a message. The scientist was struggling with what his inventions had become. Deho understood. He replied with simple words. "We did not choose this war, Doctor, but we will choose how to fight it. With precision, with purpose, and with the goal of justice, not conquest. That has to be enough." 3 days later, the Earth fleet departed, 50 warships carrying the hopes of humanity and the promise of vengeance. They passed through the Sol system, past Mars and Jupiter, then engaged faster-than-light drives. The journey would take 3 weeks. At the end of it, they would face Ganzorig's forces. 200 ships against 50. The enemy had numbers. Earth had fury. As the fleet jumped into the darkness between stars, Deho made one final broadcast to his crews. "We are not conquerors. We are not invaders. We are defenders. We are going to find the people who murdered our families, and we are going to bring them to justice. The galaxy will watch. Let them see what happens when you attack Earth. Let them learn why neutrality was always our choice, not our weakness." The sleeping giant was fully awake now, and it was coming for blood. The journey through war-torn space was like traveling through a graveyard. Admiral Deho Kang watched from the Bridge of the Soul as they passed the remains of battles that had happened years ago. Broken ships drifted in the darkness. Some still had bodies frozen inside. Planets that once held life were now burned rocks. This was what 187 years of war looked like. This was what Earth had stayed out of. Now humanity was passing through it, heading toward more violence. Captain Ji-won Park kept her crew busy during the 3-week journey. They ran drills every day, weapons practice, damage control exercises, evacuation procedures. Many of her people had never seen combat before the battle with the enemy squadron. That had been easy. The next fight would not be. Colonel Taeyang Choi worked his Marines even harder. They practiced boarding operations in zero gravity. They learned to fight in tight corridors where one mistake could kill everyone. They memorized the layout of asteroid bases until they could navigate them blind. Taeyang knew that when they landed on Ganzorig's headquarters, every second would matter. Both sides of the Galactic War watched Earth's fleet pass through their territory. Dominion ships tracked them on sensors. Free Systems vessels monitored their course, but neither side interfered. They had seen what happened to the squadron that tried to stop Earth. No one wanted to be next. On the 18th day of travel, they reached the edge of the Corbat Nebula. It was a massive cloud of gas and dust that blocked sensors and made navigation dangerous. Perfect place to hide a secret base. Lieutenant Commander Sora Yoon had identified the exact location. Deep inside the nebula, there was a cluster of asteroids. Ganzorig had turned the largest one into a fortress. He had factories, barracks, weapons platforms, and a fleet of 200 ships defending it. 200 against 50, Ji-won said when she saw the numbers. Those are bad odds. For them, Admiral Kang replied. The plan was simple. Earth's fleet would divide into 3 groups. Ji-won's task force would engage the enemy fleet. Daeho's command group would bombard the asteroid fortress. Taeyang's Marines would board and capture Ganzorig alive. Simple plans were best. Less could go wrong. They entered the nebula slowly. The gas clouds made everything difficult. Sensors barely worked. Communications were spotty. It was like flying blind. But Earth's stealth technology was designed for exactly this situation. The enemy did not know they were coming until it was too late. Ji-won's ships appeared out of the nebula like ghosts. The enemy fleet was spread out, guarding different approaches to the fortress. They were not ready for a coordinated strike. All ships fire at will, Ji-won ordered. Kinetic weapons launched. Missiles streaked through space. Energy beams cut through the gas clouds. The first wave of enemy ships exploded before they could raise shields. The second wave managed to fight back, but their weapons could not find targets. Earth's stealth systems made tracking impossible. The battle became chaos. Ships fired blindly into the nebula, hoping to hit something. A few got lucky. Earth lost 2 destroyers in the first hour, but the enemy losses were catastrophic. Ji-won's artificial intelligence targeting systems could track every ship simultaneously. Human weapons hit with perfect accuracy while enemy shots missed. By the end of the second hour, 180 enemy ships were destroyed or disabled. The survivors tried to run. Ji-won did not chase them. Her job was to clear the path to the fortress. The path was clear. Admiral Kang brought his command group into position around the asteroid fortress. It was massive, carved out of rock and reinforced with metal. Weapons platforms covered every surface. Shield generators protected key facilities. Taking it by conventional assault would cost thousands of lives. Daeho did not do conventional assaults. Deploy gravity generators, he ordered. Dr. Nam's devices activated around the fortress. They created artificial gravity wells, pulling smaller asteroids toward the base. Hundreds of rocks began falling like rain. The fortress's weapons tried to shoot them down, but there were too many. Asteroids smashed into defensive platforms. Shields flickered and failed. Whole sections of the base were crushed under tons of stone. Then Earth's directed energy weapons opened fire. These were not normal lasers. They were concentrated beams that could cut through anything. They sliced through the asteroid's armor like a knife through paper. Atmosphere vented into space. Internal fires spread through corridors. The fortress was being torn apart. The siege lasted 4 days. Ganzorig's forces fought desperately. They knew capture meant trial for war crimes. They knew there was no escape. Some tried to surrender. Others fought to the last. But desperation could not overcome Earth's methodical destruction. On the 4th day, a section of the fortress was breached enough for boarding. Colonel Taeyang Choi led his Marines into the gap. Close combat in zero gravity was brutal. The Marines pushed through twisted metal corridors filled with debris and bodies. The enemy fought from every corner, every room. Taeyang lost people. Good people. But his Marines kept advancing, meter by meter, section by section. They found prisoners in the lower levels, people from both sides of the Galactic War, captured by Ganzorig and held as hostages or slaves. Taeyang's teams evacuated them carefully, getting them to safety before continuing the assault. The rescue operation proved what Earth had been saying all along. This was not about conquest. This was about justice. After 3 days of ground fighting, Taeyang's team reached the command center. Ganzorig was there with his remaining officers. They had barricaded themselves in, preparing for a final stand. Taeyang's Marines breached the door with shaped charges. Inside, Ganzorig stood in his admiral's uniform, weapon in hand. He was old, maybe 60, with scars covering half his face. He looked at the human soldiers with contempt. "You should have stayed out of the war," Ganzorig snarled. "Neutrals are cowards. You needed to learn that lesson." Taeyang was exhausted. He had not slept properly in a week. He had lost 50 Marines taking this base. He looked at the man who had ordered the deaths of 4.7 million humans and felt nothing but cold anger. "You wanted us in this war," Taeyang said quietly. "Congratulations. You got your wish. Now drop your weapon. You are under arrest for crimes against sapient life." Ganzorig raised his gun. 3 Marines fired at once. The admiral fell, wounded but alive. His officers surrendered immediately. Medics stabilized Ganzorig and took him to a holding cell. He would face trial. He would answer for what he did. That was more mercy than he had shown Earth's colonies. Admiral Kang stood on the bridge of the Soul and received the reports. The fortress was secured. Ganzorig was captured. 47 of his senior officers were in custody. Earth had lost 3 ships and 1,247 personnel. It was a victory. It did not feel like one. Daeho read the casualty list. Every name was a person. Every person had family, friends, dreams. They died far from home, fighting a war Earth never wanted. But they died for something important. Justice, protection, the principle that mass murder cannot go unpunished. Ambassador, Mirai sent a message from Earth. She wanted to broadcast the evidence they had found, show the galaxy what Ganzorig had done, prove that Earth's response was justified. Daeho approved. Let everyone see. Let them understand why humanity fought. The fleet began preparations for the journey home. They would carry prisoners and freed captives. They would carry their own dead for burial. They would carry the knowledge that Earth had changed forever. The galaxy watched as the human ships departed the Korbat Nebula. They had arrived as Avengers. They left as something else. They left as a warning. Do not attack peaceful people. Do not mistake kindness for weakness. Do not wake the sleeping giant unless you are ready to face what happens next. The lesson had been taught. Time would tell if anyone learned it. The fleet returned to Earth like warriors from an ancient story. Ships scarred by battle, crews exhausted but victorious. They had gone hunting for justice and found it. But the cost weighed on everyone. Admiral Daeho Kang watched from the Soul's bridge as Earth grew larger on the screen. Home. He had not seen it in 2 months. It felt like years. The journey out had been filled with anger and determination. The journey back was different, quieter. People thought about the friends they lost, about what they had to do to win. Captain Jiwon Park struggled with survivor's guilt. Her ship came through both battles with minimal damage. Other vessels were torn apart. Why did her crew survive when so many others did not? She knew there was no answer. War was random. Luck mattered as much as skill. That did not make it easier. Dr. Hyun-Woo Nam spent the journey reviewing combat data. His weapons had performed exactly as designed. They killed efficiently. That was the problem. He had spent his career trying to protect people. Now his inventions were instruments of death. He told himself it was necessary. He told himself they had no choice. Some nights he believed it. Lieutenant Commander Sora Yoon finally had time to grieve. Her sister was gone. Ganzorig was captured, but that did not bring anyone back. Justice and closure were not the same thing. She visited the memorial wall on the Sol every day, where names of the fallen were displayed. Her sister's name was there, along with 4.7 million others. Earth welcomed them home with ceremonies and celebrations. Cities held parades. Politicians gave speeches. The fleet had saved humanity's honor, they said. They had shown the galaxy that Earth would not be pushed around. The celebrations felt hollow to the people who had actually fought. They did not feel like heroes. They felt like survivors doing a necessary job. Memorial services were held for the fallen. 1,247 names. Each one was read aloud. Each one had family in the audience. Daiho attended every service. It was the least he could do. These people had followed his orders into battle. He owed them this. While Earth mourned and celebrated, preparations began for the trial. Fleet Admiral Ganzorig and 47 of his officers would face justice in The Hague. The old city had hosted war crimes trials for centuries. Now it would host one for the galaxy. Ambassador Mirai Han organized the tribunal. She invited observers from both sides of the Galactic War, from neutral powers, from the Galactic Council. This trial would be public. Everyone would see the evidence. Everyone would understand why Earth acted. The prisoners were brought to Earth under heavy guard. Ganzorig looked smaller now without his uniform and power. He was just an old man in a plain jumpsuit, facing judgment for his crimes. The trial began 3 months after the fleet returned. The courtroom was packed with observers from across the galaxy. News networks broadcast every moment. This was the most watched event in galactic history. The prosecution presented evidence. Communication logs showing Ganzorig ordering the attacks. Battle recordings of the massacres. Testimony from survivors. Documents proving he had been planning this for years. The case was overwhelming. Ganzorig's defense lawyers argued that he was no different from countless commanders in the ongoing war. Both sides had killed civilians. Both sides had committed atrocities. Why was Ganzorig being singled out? The prosecution's answer was simple. Ganzorig attacked people who chose peace. The free systems and Dominion were at war with each other. Terrible things happened in war. But Earth's colonies were neutral. They harmed no one. Targeting them was different. It was murder, plain and simple. The argument made both sides of the Galactic War uncomfortable. If targeting civilians was a crime, then their commanders were guilty too. If Ganzorig deserved punishment, so did hundreds of their officers. The Dominion tried to pressure Earth to limit the trial's scope. The free systems offered deals to drop certain charges. Mirai refused all of them. This trial was about establishing principles. Civilian massacres were unacceptable, period. The faction did not matter. The military objective did not matter. Some lines could not be crossed. Neutral powers watched carefully. For 2 centuries, they had been caught between 2 violent factions. They had no way to hold either side accountable. Now Earth was showing them how. Create a tribunal. Present evidence. Deliver justice. It was a model they could follow. On Earth itself, the trial created debates. Some people wanted harsher sentences. Some wanted the trial to end quickly so Earth could return to normal. Others worried that Earth was setting itself up as judge of the galaxy. Who gave humanity the right to hold tribunals? Admiral Kang was called to testify about military operations. He explained the decisions he made, the battles they fought, the restraint they showed. Even in revenge, Earth had been careful. They targeted only the guilty. They rescued prisoners. They could have killed Ganzorig easily, but they captured him for trial instead. That restraint mattered. It showed Earth was not seeking conquest or domination, just accountability. The trial lasted 3 months. Every day brought new testimony. Every day revealed more details of Ganzorig's crimes. By the end, even his own lawyers looked disgusted. The tribunal delivered its verdict on a cold morning in December. Ganzorig was found guilty on all charges: crimes against sapient life, illegal warfare, mass murder. The judges sentenced him to life imprisonment without possibility of parole. His senior officers received similar sentences, adjusted for their individual roles. Some got life, others got decades. The lowest-ranking participants, who provided testimony against their commanders, received reduced sentences in exchange for cooperation. Some people on Earth were angry the sentences were not harsher. Some in the galaxy thought they were too harsh. But the tribunal had done something important. It established that mass murder had consequences. It showed that even in war there were rules. The real impact came after. Officers from both sides of the Galactic War started defecting. They brought evidence of war crimes committed by their own factions. They wanted immunity in exchange for testimony. They wanted to see their own commanders held accountable. Neutral systems petitioned Earth to establish more tribunals. They wanted to bring cases against commanders who had attacked them. They wanted justice like Earth got justice. The Galactic Council, which had been useless for decades, suddenly started discussing formal war crimes protocols. Both sides opposed it, but neutral powers had gained a voice. They were demanding change. Mireille proposed creating a permanent tribunal. It would have authority to prosecute war criminals from any faction. Neutral systems would staff it. Evidence would be open to everyone. The proposal was ambitious and controversial. She also proposed the Neutral Powers Collective Defense Treaty. Neutral systems would share intelligence and coordinate defense. They would protect each other. They would present a united front against aggression. If someone attacked one neutral world, they attacked all of them. Both warring factions hated the idea. A block of neutral powers would complicate the war. It would create a third force they had to consider. But they could not stop it. Not after Earth had demonstrated what happened when you attacked neutrals. Sora visited her sister's memorial one last time before returning to work. She had thought catching Ganzorig would bring peace. It did not. The anger was still there. The grief was still there. But now there was something else too. Purpose. She would make sure this never happened again. Colonel Taeyang Choi returned to training his Marines. Earth's military was beginning to demobilize. Some ships were going back into storage. Some soldiers were going home. But Taeyang knew they needed to stay ready. The galaxy had seen what Earth could do. Some would respect that. Others would want to test it. Jiwan Park was promoted to Commodore and given command of a new task force. Their job was to protect neutral shipping lanes. Keep the peace. Show the flag. Remind everyone that Earth was watching. Dr. Nam continued his work but established oversight committees. Any new weapon would be reviewed by ethics panels. Scientists would have a say in how their inventions were used. It was not much, but it was something. A way to keep their humanity while building tools of war. Admiral Kang thought about retirement. He was 60 now. He had seen enough war. But Earth needed experienced leadership. The galaxy had changed. Humanity's relationship with it had changed. Someone needed to guide the fleet through this new era. 1 year after the trial ended, Mireille stood before the Galactic Council again. This time she was not asking for justice. She was offering a choice. Earth wanted peace. Humanity always wanted peace, but Earth had learned that peace without strength was just waiting to become a victim. The galaxy could work with Earth to create real peace. Peace with accountability and rules. Or they could test Earth again. She did not recommend testing Earth again. The message was clear. The sleeping giant had opened one eye. It had delivered one warning. Now it was waiting to see if anyone was smart enough to listen. 1 year after the trial, Earth had settled into its new role. The wounds from the massacre were healing, but the scars remained. New Jeju was being rebuilt. Colonists were moving back, determined to reclaim their world. The rebuilt cities had memorials now, monuments to remind everyone what had been lost. The defense fleet maintained higher readiness than before. Not as high as during the war, but never again would Earth be caught unprepared. Admiral Jiwan Park, promoted from her position as Commodore, now commanded the Frontier Patrol. Her ships protected the neutral zones, the spaces where no warships from either side were allowed. The tribunal continued its work. 14 neutral systems had joined Earth in prosecuting war criminals. Cases were being heard against officers from both sides. The Dominion and Free systems hated it, but they could not stop it. Public opinion had turned. Their own citizens were demanding accountability. The long war was showing signs of exhaustion. 188 years of fighting had drained both sides. Their economies were collapsing. Their populations were tired. The tribunal had revealed atrocities that even their own people found hard to accept. For the first time in decades, people on both sides were asking why they were still fighting. Ambassador Mirai Han received a secret communication. Both sides wanted to talk. Not the usual theater of peace negotiations that went nowhere. Real talks. They wanted to end the war. Mirai was skeptical. She had hosted peace talks before. They always failed. But something felt different this time. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was fear of the tribunal exposing more crimes. Maybe it was the realization that neutral powers were no longer passive observers. The talks were held on Unity Ring Station, the same place where everything had started. Mirai insisted on neutral ground. No advantage for either side. Just talking. This time, both sides came with real authority to negotiate. Not mid-level commanders, but senior leaders who could make decisions. They came because they had to. The alternative was continuing a war nobody could win. The negotiations lasted 8 months. There were arguments. There were walkouts. There were moments when everything almost fell apart. But they kept talking. Mirai kept them at the table, pushing both sides toward compromise. The major issues were territory and accountability. Both sides wanted to keep what they held. Both sides refused to admit their crimes. Mirai proposed a solution. Territory would be decided by plebiscite. Let the people in contested systems vote on which side to join. As for accountability, the tribunal would continue. War criminals from both sides would face justice, but lower-ranking soldiers would receive amnesty. It was not perfect. Border disputes would continue for years. The tribunal would be controversial forever. True peace would take generations. But it was something. It was better than endless war. The Treaty of Unity Ring was signed on a spring morning. The same station where Mirai had given Earth's ultimatum now hosted the beginning of peace. It was not the end of the war, but it was the end of active fighting. A ceasefire that both sides promised to honor. Admiral Daeho Kang watched the signing from Earth. He was 62 now and finally ready to retire. The fleet was in good hands. Jiwan was a capable commander. Younger officers were learning the lessons of the past year. Earth would remain strong. He gave his final address to the fleet before stepping down. It was short, like everything Daeho said. He talked about the balance between strength and wisdom, about how peace was precious but those unwilling to defend it would lose it, about how Earth had shown the galaxy something important. Violence could be answered without becoming violent yourself. Justice could be pursued without losing your humanity. Lieutenant Commander Sora Yoon was now Colonel Yoon, directing Earth's expanded intelligence division. Her job was no longer hunting killers. It was preventing massacres before they happened. Tracking threats, sharing information with allied systems, building networks that made war less likely. She still visited her sister's memorial sometimes. The pain never fully went away, but it had changed. It was no longer raw and bleeding. It was a reminder, a reason to keep working, a promise that she would protect others from experiencing what she experienced. Colonel Taeyang Choi remained with the Marines, now as their commandant. He had written new doctrine based on lessons from the asteroid assault. How to fight with precision, how to minimize civilian casualties even in combat, how to maintain discipline and ethics under fire. His book became required reading across the Neutral Powers Alliance. Dr. Hyunwoo Nam had finally made peace with his role. He continued developing new technologies, but now the focus had shifted. His team worked on humanitarian projects, medical systems, environmental restoration, ways to help rebuild what war had destroyed. The weapons research continued, but it was balanced now, defense and recovery working together. The Neutral Powers Alliance had grown to 47 systems. They shared defense technology. They coordinated patrols. They presented a united front. An attack on one was an attack on all. The policy had not been tested yet, but everyone understood what would happen if it was. Earth had shown what happened when you attacked peaceful people. Not everyone was happy with the changes. Some on Earth wanted to use their military power to expand, to claim territory, to become an empire. Others wanted to return to complete isolation, to pretend the galaxy did not exist. Most people understood that neither extreme was possible. Earth had been pulled into galactic affairs. The only question was how to engage wisely. 2 years after the ceasefire, Mirai walked through the rebuilt streets of New Jeju. The colony had recovered faster than anyone expected. Children played in parks that had been blast craters. Farmers worked fields that had been poisoned. Life continued because people refused to give up. She visited the Central Memorial, where the names of 4.7 million victims were carved in black stone. People came here to remember, to grieve, to promise it would never happen again. Mirai thought about everything that had changed. Earth went from neutral observer to active participant, from a peaceful civilization to one that demonstrated terrible capability. The transformation had been necessary, but it came with costs. Innocence lost, lives ended, a burden that would last forever. But Earth had also shown something else, that peaceful people could fight when necessary and still maintain their principles. That strength without arrogance was possible. That justice mattered even in war. A young girl approached Mirai at the memorial. She could not have been more than 10 years old, the girl asked. "Are we safe now?" Mirai thought carefully before answering. She would not lie to this child. The galaxy was still dangerous. Peace was fragile. But things had changed. "We are safer," Mirai said, "because now everyone knows what happens if they attack us, and because we know we can defend ourselves without becoming the monsters we fought." The girl nodded and went back to her parents. Mirai watched her go, thinking about the future. That child would grow up in a galaxy where Earth was respected, where neutral powers had a voice, where war criminals faced justice. It was not perfect. It would never be perfect, but it was better. Earth had sent one final message to the galaxy on the anniversary of the massacre. It was broadcast on all channels, translated into every language. The message was simple. We are not conquerors. We are not empire builders. We are not crusaders. We are humanity. And we choose peace when possible, justice when necessary, and mercy when deserved. To those who respect that, we offer friendship. To those who test that, we offer a lesson we hope you never need to learn. The choice is yours. Choose wisely. The message was heard across the galaxy. Some dismissed it as empty rhetoric. Others took it seriously. Most understood it for what it was. A warning and an offer. Work with humanity or risk facing what Ganzorig faced. Decades passed. The ceasefire held. Territory disputes were resolved through negotiation instead of battle. The tribunal continued its work, slowly establishing that even in war there were rules that everyone had to follow. The Neutral Powers Alliance became a stabilizing force, a third option for systems tired of choosing between two violent factions. Earth remained neutral, but it was a different kind of neutrality now. Armed neutrality, active neutrality. Humanity would not join wars between others, but it would defend its own people and hold killers accountable. The galaxy learned to respect that position. 50 years after the massacre, historians called the period the Terran Intervention. The brief moment when humanity stepped onto the galactic stage not to conquer, but to demand basic decency. The moment when Earth proved that peaceful civilizations could defend themselves without losing their souls. The memorial on New Jeju became a pilgrimage site. People from across the galaxy came to pay respects, to remember the cost of unchecked warfare, to see what happened when someone pushed peaceful people too far. Children learned about Admiral Kang and his measured response, about Ambassador Mirai and her diplomatic skill, about Captain Park and her decisive actions, about Colonel Choi and his ethical warfare, about Dr. Nam and his reluctant weapons, about Colonel Yoon and her pursuit of justice. They learned about the 4.7 million who died for no reason. They learned about the 1,247 who died seeking justice. They learned that both numbers mattered, that every death had meaning. Earth's colonies,